Hello, hello. Another sunny day, another winter sunny day, almost winter. Actually, it's autumn, and I'm sharing with you another episode where I was a guest. It's on a podcast called Revenue, where the host is a good friend of mine, Magzari, and we talked about different things. We talked about my background, learning marketing by running NGOs, mistakes that founders and business owners are making today, experimenting with different pricing strategies, and why great marketing should also educate your team. Throughout the episode, we talked about not taking yourself too seriously and finding time to disconnect from work. For example, I like to take work calls while biking through the city, and you know or just walking around, and those are all interesting things. It was a great episode, and basically a couple of things we talked about: it's staying in your lane. We explain what is actually funky marketing, why founders overcomplicate their lives most of the time. We talked about marketing as internal channel for education or for growth. It's becoming more and more interesting. We talked about habits outside of work, and it's interesting and a great episode, and I won't take too much of your time. So on to this episode.
Welcome to Revenue, the podcast about building and growing your online business. On this show, we interview founders, engineers, marketers, and investors, all with the goal of bringing you actionable advice on how to build a product, get your first customer, and start making money online. Welcome to Revenue, and thanks for joining our community. Welcome to the show. I'm Safa Mazari, founder and CEO of Aluxo. This episode is all about aligning your marketing efforts to educate prospects, existing customers, and your internal team. I'm joined by Nemanja Zivkovic. We discuss how he got into marketing by scaling nonprofit organizations, mistakes that early stage founders are making today, how to experiment with different pricing strategies, and focusing your efforts on marketing channels that work for you. We also touch on why it's important to not take yourself too seriously and to find time to disconnect from work. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Nemanja Zivkovic, founder and CEO of Funky Marketing. Hey Nemanja, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
How's your week been so far?
It's been, let's say, interesting. A lot of traveling, and whenever I go back to my hometown, it seems like the number of discovery calls is going up. So I maybe need to do it more often.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you're not sitting at your desk is when you get all the phone calls and emails.
Yeah, sometimes somehow that's exactly how it happens. And even like I had three important email that I got while I was on one of the peaks of the Balkan mountains. It's just crazy.
Awesome. So we'll get to what you do today, your team, all of that. But can we start with your background? What were your interests growing up? What did you think you were going to do as a career? Talk us through all of that.
Yeah, that's always an interesting thing. While I was growing up, I had two things that I love to do. First one is reading. I read a lot, even like just a few years back, I was reading three books in every 2 weeks. Besides that, playing basketball. And I wanted to be a basketball player because my father was a basketball player and a coach, and I was surrounded by many of now famous Serbian basketball players, and you know that Serbia is one of the country with the biggest reputation in basketball, so all of them are like very famous. We hosted a lot of them in our apartment in my hometown, and even watched with some of them the basketball. So yeah, my whole childhood was around basketball, and that kind of helped me because in the 90s, while I was growing up, we were closed as a country. We had sanctions, so we couldn't go out of the country, and the only chance for traveling was actually inside the country. So with the basketball team, this is what I was able to do, and also in a way that I was the captain of the team, and my father was a coach at one moment. So when the time comes to have an interview for the local media, nobody wants to do it, and I don't have a choice. I'm a captain, and my father is a coach. So I needed to learn how to communicate with media and talk in front of the camera and those kind of stuff. So it helped me a lot in the future, but also like the whole mindset around leadership, around being a team player, and all those kind of stuff. Just growing up with the basketball helped me figure out those stuff as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And you know Marty Sanchez as well, right?
Yeah. We both co-host the B2B Weekly show, and he was also playing basketball. And the deal was that he should come to Serbia and go to, we call it derby here, like Partizan and Red Star, two most famous clubs. It's one of the most famous games in the Europe, and the atmosphere is really crazy. So still waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so funny. So there's definitely something going around with like competitive basketball and B2B marketing and all of this. So there's a deeper connection, which I love. How did you make the switch from sports to what you're doing now? Was it like all of a sudden you said, "Hey, I should like, figure out a career," or did you have multiple steps before you got here? Were you always interested in marketing and sales and branding, or not so much?
Yeah, to be honest, I turned 17, 18, and then I started to get interest in music, in girls, just kind of teenager growing up, and basketball moved to like third place. And while I was thinking what I should study, like I wanted to study like tourism, geography, something like that, because traveling and meeting new people, new cultures, those kind of things. And my parents wanted me to go with something related to the economics, banking, those kind of stuff. So we found like a middle ground, but I didn't get on the state budget. So it got me to study marketing. Basically, I didn't ever think about it because I was thinking about marketing like commercials on the TV at the time. This is what I was considering marketing. And it turned out to be one of the most demanding departments in the college, and with the most exams, more than the other departments. And what I didn't like is that I didn't learn anything about marketing over there. I learned some stuff related to the, I don't know, company organization, pricing, maybe something else. I learned how much corn they grow in specific countries in the US or in Brazil, and those kind of stuff. So I paused the year, and I went to kind of live abroad in the next country, in Bulgaria, and volunteer. I had an idea to volunteer 2 months in hotels and learn the way they are doing marketing. But I figure out that they have also something that they consider marketing over there, and it's accounting. So it was basically me in a small room with 7 women who were just smoking, gossiping, and doing accounting. So after a day, I quit, and yeah, just started my own NGO. Started doing a lot of things related to the activism, to helping youth advocacy, youth policy, those kind of stuff. Working a lot with helping youth from vulnerable groups, especially Roma children. Working a lot with UNICEF, and I basically never finished the college. So I learned marketing in a different way by doing it. So for my NGO, I needed to build social media page, which became the page with the most likes and followers in the city. I learned how to manage the team. I learned how to manage the NGOs or the company, how to write projects, how to implement them. Also, at the time, I started organizing the huge summer camps with the goal to kind of stop mountain villages from dying. And at the time, we didn't have any budget. So I needed to make it sustainable, and I needed to get participants from all around the world over there. So I managed to do it only by using Facebook groups, finding out different ways to do it. And I mean, it was 200 people from 18 countries on those camps. Overall, I think, yeah, like around 200 people. Yeah, it's still fascinating number because like people from those villages had a chance to see like a guy, a black young man from Jamaica for the first time, or to talk with somebody who is from, I don't know, from Russia or from Peru or other countries.
Absolutely. So first, thank you for the work you do and the work you did. I think it's incredibly important. The other thing that kind of stands out to me is what you said about the way people describe marketing or teach marketing, right? So marketing is actually my worst grade in university. It's pretty much all I do every day now, so I find it very funny. But my experience is very similar to yours. People want to talk about management. They want to talk about organizational structure. They want to talk about how the largest companies in the world do marketing, right? Like if you were to get your product placed in Walmart or Target on the shelf, how would you do the marketing? And that's not relevant to 99.5% of people doing marketing today. Was that part of your frustration, that you just felt like it either wasn't marketing at all or it was just completely stuck in the 1980s?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you know how they say on college they teach you to see the big picture, right? But when that big picture is not actually the one allowing you to see the changes that were about to happen and that are happening, it means that something is wrong over there. It means that, like, I mean, I have a lot to say about education today, but one of the main things related to this answer is that is not improving fast enough. It cannot follow all the digitalization, the technical changes, and the world we are living in. So I think that's why a lot of people are now moving into learning online, finding, educating themselves in different way and not in a classic way of formal education.
What I always tell people is there's three ways of learning something. There's free, there's cheap, and there's expensive. And you always want to start free and then move to cheap and then go to expensive. And if you think about college, it's actually the exact inverse. It's like you go to college, it's very expensive. And then what do you do after that? It's not enough. So you probably buy online courses, or you probably buy guides or ask people to help you, which is cheap. And then you use the free resources at the very end. And I think that's a lot of the disconnect is college education makes a lot of sense for certain career paths. But something like digital marketing moves so quickly that they can't update the material and they can't update the lectures fast enough to keep up with what's going on. So you basically only need to learn the fundamentals, and then you just need to put the marketing into practice so that you learn LinkedIn marketing or email marketing or SEO that's relevant to this year.
Yeah, I actually think that you need to be in the trenches, in the dirt, so you can actually see what's coming. That's why when somebody says I'm a marketing strategist, I mean, if you are not actually implementing something, you cannot know how to create the strategy or those kind of stuff. And related to what you said, it's really interesting time in which I don't know, you as well, like me, were growing up. 10 years ago, even my parents consider me as somebody who is unemployed and who is maybe lazy. I mean,
Yes.
I ran an NGO, a successful one. I did a lot of things for the youth in the country and everywhere, but it's not a real job. That's how they look at it. And I was telling them, like, I know what I want to do. I just need to wait to have the possibility to do it, because technology wasn't that advanced and it still needed to happen.
Absolutely. No, I feel the same way. It's funny. I got my first consulting client when I quit my job and started doing consulting, and then started Alexa, the startup, at the same time. And the first thing my mom said was, why did someone hire you? Can't they find someone who's good at the task to do it instead of you? And it's the perception, right? That, like, if you're working from home, if you're starting your own company, if it's marketing, if it's sitting at a desk doing this, it's not the same as like you said, like a real job or a typical career, right? And I think even the last 5 years, that has changed so much and the perception has shifted. So I completely agree with you on that point. Jumping back a second, what you touched on is so important. I think teams and companies get way too big, way too fast. And then you have people, like you said, who's a strategist who doesn't implement anything. They're not an expert on paid ads, SEO, podcasts, YouTube videos, but they sit there and talk about strategy and talk about roadmaps and talk about budgets. But to me, it's like, why don't you just go to the person who's running your ads and say, what should the strategy be for the next month? Right? Because that person has all of the learnings and all of the detail, and you can talk to them directly and learn a lot more than if that information is filtered by a manager or by a strategist.
It's interesting because I don't think they really need to go to somebody who is just running ads and ask them for the strategy, but they can ask for the details and gather details from all the people, from content, from advertising, from affiliate, all those other departments, getting what's actually happening, getting the data, and then coming up with a strategy. But they need to go through all those positions in the company to be able to kind of develop everything. And I mean, since you were talking about the companies that are growing fast, I consider that the CEO or the founder in this case needs to be the person who went through all those positions before they started the company. It's not how it happens a lot, especially in technology when we have developers starting the companies. But they should have at least a co-founder of somebody who went through those positions, so they know who they need to hire when they start the company. And just hiring any strategist just because they call themselves strategists, it's wrong. But if it's a person that has all those experiences and can actually they know what the guy who is running advertising needs to do on a daily level. They actually know what the content person is doing on a daily level and what do they need to do to kind of implement things. So when you know all those things, what it takes to create something, then you can look at the bigger goal, see the budget, and then reverse engineering how it will be implemented inside the company. So the resources, who are the people running those departments and those positions, and you can actually create something meaningful out of it.
So you go to the people who have all of the data, you ask them the questions, you learn from them. They're obviously biased towards their perspective, right? But then you get that information from everyone on the team. And then you kind of have to synthesize all of that together. I see a lot of founders, co-founders who want to outsource strategy to someone else, which I think is kind of concerning because that's what you should be doing, is making sure the whole team's in alignment. The other thing you touched on is the order on how to hire people. And I think that's so important. I saw this thing on LinkedIn where someone said the number one hire on a marketing team is product marketing. And I'm sitting here thinking the only person who would say that's a product marketing person who's never started a company. Because if you start a company and you as the founder are not doing product marketing and you're not doing customer development, I don't know what the hell you're doing. And then if you go to your investors, if you have investors, and you say, I'm raising $1 million to figure out product marketing, they're going to be like, well, you need users, you need revenue, you need feedback from the market. You can't sit and not do that. So to me, it's like everyone wants to talk about these things that are important, but not necessary at the very early stages of a company. And I think that's why you get like a big company structure in a startup that doesn't have the resources or the budget to work like a big company. And I think there's a really big disconnect, like you said, between founders who've done sales marketing before and those who haven't and feel like if I don't have a product marketer, if I don't have demand gen, if I don't have an SEO manager, then I'm a loser and my company won't be successful. Like, how can we compete?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, I would agree. I think it's a little bit different depending on on the company and on the founder. Of course, there are a lot of variations of that, but you need to know what are your strengths, and to to them, I don't think that you need to like go at the beginning and kind of, these are my disadvantages. Let me hire right now the people that can fill them up. I'm kind of a person that's thinking, okay, let's play to our strengths at the beginning, because this will take us to the first few steps that we can go. Then we'll see, okay, where we are. This is where we are. We draw the line, and then we'll see who we need to hire, or what are the rest of the resources that we need to kind of get to the next step. But let's take things that we have as advantages to get as far as we can go.
This is so important. Like if you say you're 2 or 3 people and you're just starting a company, you have to play to your strengths, because your number of deficiencies is like infinite, right? You're like, we don't have a CFO, we don't have a CMO, we don't have a board, we don't have this person, we don't have that person, we don't have $100 million budget, we're not doing billboard ads, we're not doing, like, you just keep going down the list of what you don't have. You'll never do anything. But if you say like, we have a couple of engineers who are really talented building a great product, and I've done content marketing for 10 years, just focus on content marketing. Don't try and learn something you're very bad at and compete with people who are world-class at that thing. Like you kind of have to stay in your lane to get off the ground, and then you'll slowly expand. But I think as people, it's very hard. It's very hard emotionally to say, I'm just going to completely ignore this channel that's working for a friend or for a colleague, and I'm just going to stay in my lane and do what I know best.
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, I started Funky Marketing with a guy that I knew, a friend of mine that I knew from the previous company when I was director of operations. He was the designer, but with some other knowledges. But he wanted to develop things fast. Even in the first month, he was like, we need to earn more. We need to get more clients. We need to get more different clients, like the short ones, because he had a family and he had a child coming up, the second one. And I totally understand the situation. But I was like, okay, I'm building something that, not a company that I want to sell, but a company that I want to work with, and I'm playing the long game. So if we're playing the long game, this is out of the equation. So I need to play differently, and I need to go and develop things in a different way. So work on a brand, work on differentiation, work on getting the clients that can take me to the next step, not the ones that can give me some short-term benefits. So we separated. He went in a different way. Now he's running like the PPC agency, which is fine, and it is exactly what he was striving for, and I'm happy for him. And I'm also developing something that I wanted to develop, and but just knowing what you want to do and when you want to go, those are the things that are important. Because just taking a few months back from the moment that I just described, I was jobless, and I was preparing a wedding, and I didn't have any money on the side. I'm living in the city when I'm renting apartment, and knowing all that, I didn't want to rush, because I was, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew where I want things to go, and I saw that there's a huge gap in the market. And basically, I knew that if I do things the right way, I mean, what I consider the right way, it will pay off. And lucky for me, that's what is actually happening.
Could you tell us about your company, about your team? What do you do? What's your specialty?
Let me even go a few steps back, just a short. So I started doing marketing in a Canadian-based agency. Basically, after the things that I learned from running an NGO and giving talks around the country, people noticed me, and a guy reached out one day, said that they were listening to me 2 years before they reached out to me on a conference, and they are actually the company that's based in Toronto, Canada, and they have a position which is like social media manager. And what do you know about marketing? So I knew enough to start. And basically, right from the start, I needed to learn SEO. I didn't know anything about SEO. And back at that time, SEO was leaving meaningful comments on relevant articles, like link building at the time. So I had to go and learn those things, and I figured out that I know a lot. So in 13 months, I became the first GM of that agency, which had at the moment like 15 employees. So and I had to do the processes, operations, one-on-one conversations with everybody from the scratch. And I learned so much over there. At one moment, I took over the sales as well. When I found myself in a situation that, okay, I cannot learn anything more here, I needed to change. So I came here in Novi Sad to work as director of operations in a performance marketing agency, like conversions, email marketing, website, a lot of things. At the time, it was 2017, advanced stuff at the time. So, but since then, I learned that performance marketing has a plateau and that it works well as long as we have the budget. So to be able to continue doing good stuff, we need branding, we need content. So this is what I used when I started Funky Marketing. And I started it January last year. An interesting story because I had that name on my phone for I think 10 years, Keep It Funky. And I had Facebook group, still have it, with around I think 3,000 people at the moment, where I shared things related to the marketing, to the business, those kind of stuff. And I was even while I was working in the previous company, I was printing T-shirts with Funky Marketing. I was selling them, and I can see that people are really interested in that. That the name is good, so I took that name and started a little bit. And what I knew from the start is that I want to do things in my way. So people advised me, like example, to have less text on the website, but I wanted to have as many text as possible so I can explain everything that we do. And we tested it, and I saw that people are going just like they are reading their notebook, using the pencil like the mouse, and going sentence by sentence, word by word, and they were converting. So I said, "Ooh, it's great." So we started with PDF, 34 pages of marketing strategy, where we had our examples inside the strategy. So just a lead magnet and a simple landing page. As we published it, the first night I got the email from somebody who downloaded it, and the next day we got the first client. It was based on me having a personal brand established in the country and people knowing me. So that's how we started, actually. Then the COVID hit, and few clients that I had said, okay, we want you to do more stuff for us. We can hire other people, but we actually trust you. So we want you to take more work. So that's what I did. And coming back to the first hire, the first person I hired was the video editor. So somebody to help me, like share my thoughts, share everything, because I had like a couple of values that I want to follow. I had the culture, I had the story behind the name of the company, and that's how it goes. And I was sharing my whole journey, everything that I have been doing. I've been sharing results, and that's how I attracted Ivan, who came first to the company, then Martin the second one, and that's how everybody came to the company. They all came as in the same way as the clients, so inbound.
I want to talk about the website because I think it's fascinating. So it's a simple website with a link to download this 34-page document on your thoughts, your values, case studies, how you kind of think about digital marketing. Is that correct?
No, actually, at the time, it was a simple landing page when we just had a headline and a CTA download the PDF and 5 emails follow up. It was the strategy where we used all the results from our work, but those aren't results that we did as professionals on our own. Those were the things that we did while working for other agencies. Those were the only chance that we can share it. So we said that as well. But It was the document that if you want to use it without us, you can, and you can actually implement the strategy. So that was our goal, that we give the value first, and the only CTA from the emails was to schedule, I don't remember if it's 50 minutes or half an hour call with me. That's it.
I love that because I think two things stand out for me. One is you're showing people instead of telling them. You're not saying, I'm a great marketer. You're saying, here's an example of how we did successful content marketing or successful PPC marketing at previous jobs, right? Like, here's what we've done. If you want to be successful, just you can do this. Or if you don't have the time, you can hire us to do it. Two things that really stand out. One is how simple it is. You're not trying to get a 50-page website complete. You're not hiring expensive designers. You're not trying to do all of that first, which I think a lot of people run to. They run to, I need to spend a lot of money in order to put my best foot forward. And the second thing is value first and then ask for something in return, which I think so many people get wrong. Do you think founders make their lives more complicated than it needs to be?
Oh, definitely. There's no doubt about it. We all tend to overcomplicate things. I think that I build my business and doing services that we are doing for the clients just based on one simple thing, stopping them from overthinking stuff. Basically, that's it. Yeah, that's how I see it. Because especially in B2B, everybody is overthinking everything. If you ask somebody who's your ideal customers, they will say the name of the company. They won't say the position and the person in that position. And they can. Today, we have LinkedIn, we have all the data, they can. But they still consider it's a company. So it makes everything more complicated. Instead of creating content for, I don't know, like Maya, who is the CFO, we are creating content for the name of the company, for a lot of people. And it makes it harder, it makes it more general, and therefore it makes it more vanilla, right? So not causing any reactions. And there are a lot of stuff related to that are kind of the similar. When you look at the advertising, there are a lot of eyeballs on every piece of content. Not just the advertising, but overall, I'm just using it as an example. And when you have that kind of situation, when everybody is involved, let's say in marketing, then what comes out of the company is something that is really like gray or vanilla, and it's not causing any reactions.
Right. It's watered down.
Yeah.
I don't think you can build great marketing or great products with a committee. I think it has to be experts who are willing to take a risk and, like you said, willing to be specific. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe they made a mistake, but you learn from that very quickly. Do you think part of this is also people are focused on optimizing the wrong metrics? So instead of saying, I want 5 more demos this week, they're saying, I want 100 times more impressions on my content, even though impressions won't make you any more successful or pay your bills?
Well, definitely. I don't know if it's impressions today, but it's definitely is number of leads, for example, because I'm seeing the things, especially in SaaS and software-based companies where the sales cycles are longer, and so the C-suite, they don't know how to measure marketing because these guys are doing something for 9 months and they cannot measure them. What the hell are they doing? So they came up with leads. Okay, and when you have leads as a measurement, then basically you need to see improvement from month to month, and then we have more leads. And when you are going after the number, you're not going after the quality. And it gets us where we are now, where like basically the whole system is broken because of that. Salespeople hate marketing. They say, these guys are doing bullshit job again, getting us people that are not even interested in buying. Those are people that were interested in getting educated, downloading an ebook just to read it or watching a webinar just to get more information. They are not the ones who have clicked the button I want to talk to sales. And then like sales is just spending all their time on talking with people that aren't interested in talking with them. And there are more and more of those people coming as the number of leads increases. So they need to hire more people in sales. and then you end up actually losing at the end.
Whatever metric you set, that's what the team's going to move towards.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't actually move the business forward.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's why we are now in the, how they call it, a revenue marketing era, where we finally got to the point where we can actually have the data and we can measure also what marketing is doing in a different way that isn't leads. But when it comes to mindset and everything, we still need to get there. But like if the whole company is aligned around revenue, then then actually everybody's job becomes more easier, right? Because there's only one metric.
Yeah, and ultimately, that's what matters. A lot of time is spent trying to justify why your marketing shouldn't be focused on revenue. Like, I don't know, did you see that as well? A lot of people will say, oh, you have to do this other thing. And to me, it's like, well, or you can just build a brand that draws people in and that will drive revenue, right? Like, I think a lot of time is spent justifying other metrics or why revenue is not the perfect one. But to me, like, if you double a company's revenue, they're basically able to solve almost all of the problems that they have today.
Yeah, or you won't notice a lot of those problems because, I mean, the company is growing and everything is okay.
Exactly. If you come to me and say, you know, your conversion rate's going to go down, but you'll have twice as much money in the bank every month and you can pay yourself more and you can pay your team and you won't be stressed, I'm not going to care the conversion rate went down.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I think the only reason to measure the incremental steps is to optimize the incremental steps. It's not to obsess over them at the expense of revenue or profit or cash.
I totally agree. And I think here we have one problem that appears a lot in year or year and a half, and it's attribution. So everybody is obsessed about attribution, about measuring everything. You cannot measure everything. So just by focusing on the important metrics, it's enough. Because like in today's world, like world of podcasts, when we have word of mouth, when we have comments on LinkedIn, when we have somebody who is just listening a podcast and referring to somebody else, we cannot measure that. We cannot track that. And if we don't do it, we won't ever see those things actually giving us results. So if we go and try to measure every single things, we will just get lost in measuring all stuff that are probably not that important, and we won't pay attention to the most important ones.
I agree. That was actually my next question. So you beat me to the punch. I was going to say, you know, does marketing attribution matter? And for exactly the reason that you describe. I mean, sometimes it's clear cut, but it depends on the industry. It depends on the product. It depends on the price. Like, it's incredibly rare that someone sees an ad and then the first time they see that ad, they click and they buy the product and then they never come back again. And you're able to have this one-to-one attribution of this ad drove this one sale. Spend 30 minutes on LinkedIn because I can't attribute my LinkedIn activity to growing sales this month. It's kind of like all of it together is what brings people in. And I think they're obsessed on reporting metrics because I think that's what managers are asking for. And I don't think the managers are asking for the right thing.
Exactly. And I mean, if you look at the attribution, it never happens. The sale, as you said, the sale never happens in the first step. So first touch attribution, it's never the most relevant one because it's almost never happens. It's usually the last one that we are tracking, but there are so many steps before that measurement actually happens that it doesn't give us even the half of the picture. And a lot of stuff are involved over there. You reminded me of the thing that I was listening now in a bus today, and it's Andy Ruskin, and I don't remember who was his guest, but they were talking, of course, about strategic narrative. And the guy is the CEO of a company and says, I don't get it how CEOs don't find time to, talk about strategic narrative, about sharing their perspective of the world, of the way they see development of the company and everything else. Because like if they don't do it, what do they do actually? Because it's usually one channel. Let's say it's LinkedIn, and this is the one channel that they are using to talk to their clients or customers. That's it. You don't need to use 2 or 3. Only one is enough. And usually they say, okay, this is something that will take too much of my time. I know that we need to be, let's say, on social media, but I don't see how it reflects on, let's say, on the revenue, how we are earning money for that. And in that case, specific case, or some else which are more similar, I think that the marketing function inside the company becomes more important. Why? Because marketers tend to, to kind of skip one of the main things why they are there, and it's doing internal marketing, educating the CEO, educating the decision makers, actually teaching them why marketing is important and what it can bring to the company. Because most of the companies, when they start, they kind of go the wrong way. What is the wrong way? It's kind of you know starting with sales and then getting into marketing. And usually marketing is here to get the content machine and everything going, and sales is here to take them to the next level. It's kind of doing it wrong.
The last thing I'll say on attribution, you said, kind of first touch or last touch attribution, they're never the full picture. A perfect example is this morning. A friend saw an ad and then sent me a text and said, "Do you think this product would be helpful? What do you think about it?" And that was in a text conversation, and I typed in their URL myself and press enter in my browser. So for them, they're like, "Oh man, our direct searches are going up," right? This person typed our website in verbatim. It's like, someone else in another city saw your ad, told me about it, I typed it into the browser. The other thing you said was, I think, really important, the role of marketing as an internal education, right? Like when we make FAQs or when we make podcasts, part of it is to share to the rest of the team what we're thinking, right? It's, why are we building it this way? How does this feature work? What's the significance of it? How does it all fit together? I think it's really underappreciated. I think people will say, okay, marketing is external facing only. Then you have customer support. Why would customer support talk to marketing, right? That's the traditional thinking. And then over here you have sales. Sales just gets revenue. And if revenue is not where it needs to be, what do? You fire the head of sales, right? So it's like all these pieces are completely siloed. They don't talk to each other. They don't have the same goals. I think what you said is so important. Like, you can't bring in a salesperson and just expect revenue to go up if there's no inbound, if there's no brand awareness, if there's no social media presence, if nothing's moving forward. It's kind of, you're putting the cart before the horse.
I have a lot of thoughts. First of all, we mentioned the revenue marketing era, and I think we are also reaching the time where internal marketing, it will become more and more important, especially when we have all tech companies growing really fast. And to be able to do that, you need internal marketing. You need first to sell to the people that work in your company so they can sell it further, right? And we can see that happening on LinkedIn even daily. You have seen the way Drift was grown, the way they take over the platform. It's one of the reasons was because of their internal marketing. Then you see Gravy, you see other things, and basically they're posting an engagement on LinkedIn, on social media platforms. It's not just happened. They are just the extension of what's happening inside the company. All those companies have hubs inside the company where they are taught about specific things. They are informed, and they get excited about the product, about the service, about everything they do. And when they go out of the company and start talking about it, you can really see that, and you can create the engagement, the excitement, and everything. When it comes to the CEO, if CEO is not bought on the strategic narrative of the company, if it doesn't start with him, if the culture doesn't start with the CEO, then all the other people in the company cannot be aligned around it. And you're kind of doing it the wrong way. So that's one thing related to the internal marketing. The second thing that I got out of what you said is alignment inside the company. I really think today, and what will be the future, is aligning marketing, sales, and customer success around revenue. is the way to go. I think those three teams needs to communicate with themselves at least once a week, like share the results, share what each team is doing, kind of like what marketing is doing to help sales, what sales is doing different than marketing, how customer success is getting inside the story, how all they are benefiting to the revenue, like which part of the pipeline are they're owning, those kind of stuff. And I think that's the future, because even right now, if you look at the sales is doing a lot of marketing stuff. Marketing, on the other hand, needs to learn to kind of want to listen, to talk to the customers, at least listen to the calls, and demanding a place on the board when they can be directly responsible for the revenue. I think that's kind of where everything is going.
One of the ideas I had when I started my company was to reduce the number of departments, to reduce the number of information silos, right? Like, it's kind of a very simple way of looking at it. I was like, you can't have a 20-person team with 8 departments, right? You have to have a 20-person team with 3 or 4 departments and align them on these goals that, like you said, they all roll up together to revenue. Because at the end of the day, that's really what makes the company self-sustaining. That's why it's the name of the podcast. So I think that's important. If you get on a phone call with Sarah, who's at a startup or at a mid-sized company, and you're talking to her, it's very unlikely that that one person makes all of the decisions by themselves. It's very unlikely that they have the problem, they're evaluating solutions, they have the budget, they have the ability to implement all by themselves. So what has been very helpful is creating materials and documents and case studies that you can give to them so they can share it internally with their entire team as well. Because they have to sell your product or service internally in order for that deal to close and for it to be successful. And I think so many teams are focused on, how do I just have more conversations, instead of how do I educate buyers so that they can share our solution internally and get those people to agree to buy what we're selling.
Totally agree. I think not many people are talking about that, and we all should talk more about those things, because actually that's why we have the content and everything, to empower people and educate them, to get them to the moment when they're ready to buy, and there are all kind of stages and multiple steps they need to go through to get there. Not only internally, yes, okay, if we are going to the people who are not decision makers, we need to empower them with all that you said, with documentation, with education, with everything, so they can influence the decision maker. If we are going to the decision makers, we need to give them data that they actually need our products or the services. But that's also happening on social media and everywhere around us, because I think that's actually creating a demand.
I agree. There's this famous saying, it's a little outdated, but the saying in the US is, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, or nobody ever got fired for buying Intel, right? Like, they're so reputable that if you work at a Fortune 500 company and you buy software from IBM or you buy hardware from Intel, you're never going to get fired for that decision. And I think the new version of that is, like, if you have a social following, if people are engaging with your content, if prospects, leads, customers can see that credibility, they feel a lot more comfortable than if you don't have that reputation and you don't have that social proof. It's not that they don't trust you, it's just they don't know what they're getting into.
We can just go back and think about the way we are buying things, especially if expensive products or services. All of them are basically with the same features, similar products. There's at least 3 in every category. So we are buying based on the experience we have with people from the company, with people that influence our decisions, or with the salespeople or whoever we get in touch on our buyer's journey. So we buy based on the experience, and experience will determine if we're gonna buy this product or the next one. Because at least that's how I see it, and that's how I buy.
Okay, to shift gears slightly, could we talk about pricing? And you mentioned this earlier, like always providing value before having the ask. We hear a lot this term, like price to value, right? Don't price to your cost, price to the value that you're providing customers. At a high level, how do you set a price that works for you and is a win for the client. So how do you think about this relationship between value and price?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I have the right answer, but let me go through my experience and maybe we'll get there. So when we started, I had no idea of how to come up with a price because I'm coming from Serbia, which is not even in the EU, and trying to go to the US market. Okay, so we are known here as like having a cheap service, but for this market we are a little bit above that. Still a lot cheaper than any European or US company. So how do I see it and adjust the price is I talk to the customers and I follow what they are saying and how they are reacting. So in a way, if they are just saying okay without ever confronting me about the price or having any objections, it means that the price is too low. So I raise the price. And wherever I talk with potential clients and we get into that situation, I raise the price. And at one moment, we decided, okay, let's go and do something even more extreme. Let's come up with a pricing page on the website. Why? So we can define even actually narrow even more our ICP and companies that are coming towards us, and in a way to create expectations before the discovery call. So we wanted them to see the prices, and okay, these are the prices. This is how they are, pricing themselves, and based on that, they decide on the quality of our services. And I think that is very related because if you go too low, then they won't appreciate you enough. If you go too high, okay, they will try. So that's kind of my experience. I don't know.
Interesting. So do you mind giving an example just so it can be a little more specific? When you say starting low on price, like what would be a price that you would start at? And then what would be the increments up until people felt uncomfortable?
We started with actually, I think 600 euros. It was the start for anything that we are doing. It's usually some basic social media posting or I don't know, something like that. And we had, from the start, we had packages, which was like 600, 800 and 1,200 euros. And then we just increased them. I think the first client took the biggest package. So we were like, okay, it's not something that's too expensive for them. Okay, we kind of, touched the market. We saw how others are reacting. So it was okay. The pricing was around that 800 to 1,200, something like that. But as we moved away from Serbia in the EU, then we actually didn't know how the pricing was going. So when somebody says that like 1,200 is actually they don't say, they just agree right away to that. It said, okay, let's go with a little bit higher packages. So we had 1,200 euros, 1,800 euros, and I don't know, it was 2,100 euros, something like that, 3 packages. So depending on like what's included in them, how much work we are doing, how much value we are giving to that, how much is affecting the revenue and everything else. And basically, I think right after that, we always had some small things that will, in a while, they will increase the pricing. So even if they are going from one package, from cheaper one to the higher one, or we have like education, we have additional services that we add to it, those kind of stuff. And at one moment we just said, okay, let's change things. If we want to set up the standards, if we want to go to the US market, and if we want people to consider us as serious, we need to go and raise the price. So we go and check out the companies in demand gen space. Most of them don't have pricing on their website because most of them are just doing the SEO thing. Demand gen back in the days was mostly SEO. So and SEO companies don't ever give the pricing right away. Uh, I mean, a lot of them are doing a lot of different things. I won't get into that, but we wanted to have something that's at least starting point. So we said, okay, few companies that are doing stuff maybe similar to ours, based in the US, are starting from $15,000. So we said, okay, they are based in the US, they are hiring US people. It means that they need to pay them more. We don't. We hire people from Serbia, from the Europe. We can go with $10,000 less than them. So and use that as to our advantage. So this is exactly what we do. Our packages start now with $5,000, and then they go based on the advertising budget, based on the ad span, and based on like what's included in the packages.
It makes a lot of sense. So, and have you, so the typical understanding is as price goes up, the conversion rate goes down, right? But did you find that as the price went up, people took you more seriously and you were able to close more deals?
Yeah, definitely. What's interesting is I don't think that affected uh, too much the number of leads, the number of clients. It probably did because, but we never talked to those people. They never said in on the discovery calls that it's too pricey. You know, they probably saw it on the website and decided not to reach out. That's a reality, but you know, it made us change a little bit even our ICP. Why? Because we figure out that even the smaller companies from Europe, they have the budget, because like $5,000 a start, it's pricey for the Europe for some of the companies. So we figure out that we need to kind of include in our ICP the seed A or seed B startups because they had the budget. So we did that. Also, we included some of the companies that we didn't ever consider of working with. Those are like outsourcing development companies with 500, 700 plus people. So they came to us inbound. They have the budget and they are willing to risk with us to kind of like help them get to the 10x growth. So it changed a lot, and in just a few months we changed the ICP and we got closer to what we consider like our ideal customers.
Got it. That makes sense. I love it. I think it's a really important story. One, price transparency, right? You're an agency, but you have the price on the website, which I think is so helpful. A lot of people want you to have 16 phone calls before they talk about price, which honestly, it just wastes time on both sides, right? Like you're just eating up your salespeople's time with people who aren't a fit.
We even had people posting on social media tagging funky marketing and saying, you know, what do you think about pricing? I like when I see you know, the pricing page on a company's website, and it increases trust. So people were tagging us and leaving those kind of comments. So it meant a lot, and it meant that we are doing the right thing, because right from the start we were big on transparency.
To end, I have a couple of questions outside of work. Are you someone who has a lot of structure and a lot of routine, or are you someone who just says I need to get a lot of work done, and whatever that looks like for the day, it changes day by day?
Yeah, definitely closer to the second one, but I'm the guy who is like doing it all or doing nothing. So I kind of made a habit of doing a lot of things. And I mean, it helps that I have been working, as we were talking about just a few minutes ago. I have been working in every single position inside the agency before, and I know what it takes, and I have a routine of doing specific things. Like I can write really good social media post in, I don't know, in less than 2 minutes sometimes, because I'm talking to the customers. my mind is always focused on those kind of things, and I don't do actually a lot of practical work. I basically think about it a lot, and when I sit down, I do it fast. So I don't know if that sounds like a routine or whatever, but yeah, one also thing that I have as a habit is I schedule most of the calls when I'm driving a bicycle around the city. So I talk to people, sometimes with customers as well, while I'm on a bicycle and cruising around the city. So it helps me think, and it helps me, like stay healthy in a way. Like I mean, I got a ticket 2 weeks ago because I was doing that, but it doesn't matter. It's still okay.
It's interesting. You're doing like the extreme example of that. My version is I do not like to schedule calls in the morning or open my email first thing in the morning, because if you do, you will just get stuck doing that for the rest of the day. So I like to set, if I can, 4 to 5 hours in the morning to actually get work done. Then I'll open my email, and then calls in the afternoon. And my variation is I put my headphones in and I walk on calls for that same reason. Otherwise, I'd just be in front of my computer for 12 hours a day. And unless it's something very detailed, I need to be taking notes. I don't get the value of sitting at my desk during a call. If anything, it makes you distracted because you're staring at a screen. You might get an email, you might get a Slack message, you might get a notification that pulls you into another direction. I find if I'm not looking at a screen and I'm just listening, I'm much better on the call.
Interesting. I think I'm not doing actually a lot of calls when video is off. I don't know, like as we are talking right now, I'm looking through my window and standing, so it's not something I do very often. And I mean, it's great. It's a change that is really great. And just so I don't forget, I agree with everything that you said. I also tend to do the work in the morning, even like from 7 to 10, while there are no notifications, while everything is peaceful. Let's say because I wake up, I put my coffee, and I start working right away. I don't need a minute to think about things, or because I mean, you probably know, but as a CEO, you're thinking about things all the time. So yeah, and it's better to do it like this because I have from 4 to 11 calls in a day. So when the calls are starting, I cannot picture myself of doing some, like writing some post for myself or doing something else. So I tend to do it all before I jump on the calls.
It's funny. My girlfriend says she doesn't mind. She's very nice, and maybe she doesn't mind. But I think it bothers her because we'll be together, and I'll just be like, I have to take this note down because I have a great solution to this product problem that we're having. And she's like, what? And I was like, well, you can't turn the part of your brain off, right? Like, it's just, you're always thinking about it in the background. And I agree with you. Like, I think hours in the day are not a good metric because it's not like I sit in front of my desk and that's the only time I think about work. Sometimes I'll be making food or going on a walk or even with friends, and I'll have this idea for content that pops into my mind, and I just have a little note on my phone. I jot down the idea, and then later I'll make it into a full post. But when I sit down to make a LinkedIn post, it's 2 minutes. It's not like I'm staring at LinkedIn for an hour trying to be inspired. Like, there's always things that I could be doing, and I don't really know how to turn that off.
Yeah, you can't. You can't basically. And I mean you shouldn't. Why should you? So I had that mindset even before I was a founder and a CEO. I always had that entrepreneurship mindset, and I mean, back in the days, it got me into some troubles because I was saying a lot of stuff that were on my mind right away. Like, I don't know, an interesting example. Um, we were organizing a music festival in my hometown on a stadium that is about to be demolished, and they are building the new one. And everybody got a permission from the local municipality to organize different events, but they didn't allow us. So I wrote a post when I mentioned everybody from the president of the municipality to the president of Home of Culture, everybody. My father was working in a Home of Culture. So it all got to the in like less than 3 minutes. It got to the president of the local government, then he called the director of home culture. Then this guy calls my dad. Then my dad calls me, but before that he calls my mother to ask what the hell is our son doing. He calls me, then my mother calls me, all freaked out, and but after 2 days we got the permission and we organized the festival. So I say those things are working, and even the people who don't have social media are actually getting information from social media. So I learned a lot of stuff over there.
Absolutely. I love that example. I used to get in trouble too before I started a company, but it was a little different. I would tell people they're not, like, something was wrong, and people don't, I don't know why, but people don't like hearing that they're wrong. Or I would just continue to say yes to things that weren't in my job description or weren't in my role. So I was doing finance and operations, and then there was a marketing task that no one had time for, so I would just do it. And then people would say, why are you here? You don't know marketing? And I'm like, well, it needs to get done, so I'm just going to move this forward, right? So I think in a way it's good. I think the flip side of that is trying to find some balance and some way to disconnect from work. I don't know, do you have hobbies or interests or things you do outside of work, or is it really just work and then like family time?
I have, and I'm just thinking when this pandemic will be over, so we're able to go to the concerts, to the DJ parties, able to until we are able to dance. I like to hike. I like to go to the nature. I like to ride my bicycle, and I like reading comics. I actually think comics are important part of my job, actually, because I get a lot of stuff from them. How do you structure discussion? How do you enter new characters into the discussion? How to impose creativity in some things, how to visualize things. And because I just don't have concentration to read as much as I would like to. So like the comics are the second best option.
Yeah, I like that. And I think you need inspiration from other sources, right? Like if you just read B2B marketing blogs all day, it would be an incredibly boring life, right? Like what I'm starting to see now is the importance of personality and kind of, this is going to sound so stupid to say out loud, but like enjoying the work you do and making that come across to the reader, right? Like I can have a great day and then I'll look at what I wrote and it's incredibly boring, like academic. Here are the definitions. Here's what it means. Here's how you calculate this metric, right? And I could still write that piece, but put in 2 or 3 funny sentences. And that doesn't mean I'm not a business professional.
Yeah, I mean, I put out on LinkedIn even posts when I'm dancing. Yeah, I did it last year. I did it the year before on Instagram, and I get people who are like organizers of the big conferences here in Serbia, like, this is not professional, this isn't what you should be doing. And I'm like, I posted this because it was the first lockdown, and everybody were stressed out, all kind of news about catastrophe, about pandemic everywhere. While this is happening, my job is my company is growing, actually. So I needed to do something to celebrate it, but and to get the stress out of me, but not to offend anybody, by talking about, okay, we are growing, this is the MRR, this is how things are happening. So I danced it out. That's it.
I love that. Nemanja, thank you so much for your time. The last thing from mine is, do you have any final thoughts or any questions that you want to ask me?
Ugh, I guess I have, and I guess what I want to ask you, not related to the things outside of the work, but like to ask you, how do you see and how fast do you see B2B developing with some things which are now relatable more to the B2C? So like emotions, feelings, humanity, those kind of stuff. When do you think we will be able to see like the New Year's video that we have for, I don't know, for Milka, for some of the B2B companies?
I think the smart people are doing it right now, but they're kind of alone and way out front, and they get a lot of engagement a lot of leads, a lot of revenue, but they also get a lot of criticism for it because, to your point, people are saying it's not professional, it's not what LinkedIn is, it's not what 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people were saying you shouldn't put emojis in emails. And I'm not saying 100 emojis. I'm just saying like you put one next to a point you want to make, or you bold a sentence, or you put a funny graphic, like something to call attention to a point that you're making. People were saying that was unprofessional. So I think it's happening very slowly. The smart people are jumping to the end and just doing it right now because the market will shift that way. So the worst thing that's going to happen is you get a little bit of criticism in the middle. But frankly, the people who are criticizing aren't buyers anyway. I've personally never seen someone say something or do something on social and then someone say, I'm not going to buy from them. And the reason was they were too consumer oriented. The reason is they say something offensive or people don't agree with your values. It's not because you said something that you were trying to be funny and people didn't find it funny. And I think a big reason is the generational shift. You're starting to see people in their late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s who are in these decision-making positions. And now you're almost just talking to people who talk and think just like you, instead of having to have that conversation and then translate it into like a professional conversation for someone who's older, who might not have grown up with smartphones and social media.
Yeah, that's actually great. I like to see that there are some people that are agreeing with me and are seeing the same things that I'm seeing.
I'm doing it more myself. And the reason I do it is not a fear of offending people. I'm very introverted. If you ask me about accounting or finance, I can talk a lot about it because they're facts, they're objective. But I don't really like talking about my feelings, my thoughts, my emotions, things that are personal to me. And I'm starting to break that down and getting more comfortable with it because at the end of the day, you just have to enjoy what you do. And I think part of enjoying it is sharing with others and getting that more human response back. So it's something I'm working at getting better at.
Yeah, way to go. For the end, let me just get back to you on this. I was an introvert as well while I was younger. And just a few years ago, we had like 15 years of the end of the high school celebration. And a guy we hang out while we were younger, approached me and he told me, I'm following what you're doing. So being an introvert, you invested a lot in yourself and you became another introvert that is behaving like extrovert and you're using it great to your advantage. So I think you will be able to do it as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And the key is like I've been enjoying the process, right? Like what's the worst thing that's going to happen? People you don't know judge you? Well, they're probably going to judge you anyway, right? It's like that's part of being a founder, being a CEO. So you might as well enjoy the process and kind of, like you said, share what you want to share, even if that's videos of dancing.
Yeah, it's liberating in a way.
Exactly. It's liberating. Yeah. Nemanja, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it and I'd love to have you back on another time to continue the conversation.
Thank you. It was fun. I think we're going to hang out on my podcast as well.
Yeah, I'd like that. Awesome, man. Have a great rest of your day and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you. Wish you the same and chat later.
Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Revenue Podcast. Revenue is hosted by Safa Mazzari and presented by Aluxo. If you run an e-commerce store, you need to try Aluxo. Our software lets you track key metrics, publish dashboards, and get insights into the health of your business, all without lifting a finger. We automate financial reporting so you can focus on growing your brand. To learn more and to get started for free, visit alluxo.com. If you have questions or want to recommend a topic, email podcast@aluxo.com. Thanks, and we'll catch you again soon.